Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking some recent, highly critical reports that dive deep into the sudden and honestly pretty shocking collapse of Team India's T20 performance. Across the entire fandom, everyone is asking the exact same question. Team India ki asafalta ki chayan ki galtiyan zimmedar? Today, we're going to look at the core arguments dominating this conversation and figure out exactly why these specific selection mistakes are being blamed for the team's massive failures. So let's dive right into what the sources are saying. To really wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this crisis, we've got to look at the timeline. Back in March 2026, Team India was literally riding on top of the world. They were crowned T20 World Cup champions. It was a massive, euphoric high for the sport. But fast forward just a tiny bit, and the drop-off is honestly breathtaking. First, they suffer a devastating 0-2 series loss against Ireland. Then they find themselves trailing 0-3 in a series against England. Going from world champions to suffering back-to-back series humiliations in such a ridiculously short window, that's practically unheard of. So you've got to ask, what on earth happened? Why this sudden slump? Well, according to the reports we're breaking down today, this is absolutely no accident. Sources are pointing directly at continuous, frankly baffling selection mistakes that trace this whole current disaster back to a domino effect of incredibly erratic management choices. It's a classic case of trying to fix what wasn't broken, and observers are heavily arguing that these self-inflicted wounds are exactly what derailed a championship-winning team. Okay, let's get into Section 1, Captaincy Roulette, from World Cup glory to an outside choice. The contrast we're looking at here is just undeniable. Consider Suryakumar Yadav. The guy literally just captained the team to the 2026 T20 World Cup victory. But almost immediately after bringing home that trophy, reports note he was ousted. The management cited advancing age and a dip in form, effectively turning him into a scapegoat. And to replace a World Cup winning captain, management brought in Shreyas Iyer, a player who was completely outside the T20 setup at the time. Since he took over, critics have been quick to point out that Iyer's strike rate has plummeted from an explosive 200 all the way down to roughly 130. Many argue he's now just playing slow, self-serving innings purely to keep his spot on the team. Moving on to Section 2, Questioning Player Selection. Rushing youth at the expense of experience. Right, so here's the prime example that critics are shouting about. Sanju Samson wasn't just a solid player, he was the player of the tournament at that very same 2026 T20 World Cup. Yet somehow he was abruptly dropped from the squad. Why? To make room for youngster Vaibhav Suryavanshi. Management claimed it was the right time to introduce him, fast-tracking him straight into the incredibly high-pressure environment of international cricket, all while benching their literal most valuable tournament player. So, did this massive gamble actually pay off? The sources argue it failed entirely. Just look at the numbers. In his first T20 match, Suryavanshi scored 13. In the second, 14, and in the fourth, just 15 runs. The reports use these highly underwhelming, back-to-back low scores as definitive proof that dropping a proven match winner for a totally untested rookie was a catastrophic miscalculation. And look, this constant shuffling and utter lack of stability, it isn't just affecting individual players anymore. It actually seems to be infecting the entire roster's mindset. Commentators are noticing a drastic, worrying drop in technique. Former player Dinesh Karthik bluntly stated, "Players are just slogging." The reports echo this exact sentiment, pointing out that the Indian batters look completely lost out there at the crease. Instead of actually building innings, they're resorting to reckless, panicked swings just trying to survive the over. Which brings us to Section 3, Inconsistent Coaching and Transition, examining Gautam Gambhir's management. A massive point of frustration cited by analysts is the totally contradictory messaging coming straight from the coach's mouth. In one press conference, Gautam Gambhir emphatically stated, "I hate the word transition." But then, literally the very next day, when he was forced to explain away an embarrassing loss, his excuse was, "This is a transition phase." Critics are quick to point out that this kind of public flip-flopping makes it look like management has absolutely zero clear plan, and they're simply making up excuses on the fly to cover for the poor performances. And trust me, the reports go way farther than just critiquing his press conferences. The sources level some incredibly heavy claims against the coach and his management team. First, they highlight completely erratic tactical choices, like the baffling decision to promote lower-order players, such as Harshit Rana, up the batting order without any clear logic whatsoever. Second, there are serious accusations of engaging in shady PR games, specifically bringing managers along to plant negative media leaks about certain players. And finally, perhaps most explosively, the sources allege there's a deliberate underlying agenda to prematurely phase out senior legends like Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma well before the 2027 ODI World Cup. Now for Section 4, the high-stakes BCCI review, a crucial showdown behind closed doors. The sources confirm that right after the final T20 against England, there is a massive review meeting scheduled behind closed doors. And the BCCI, they are not taking this lightly. We're talking top brass. BCCI President Mithun Manhas and Secretary Devajit Sakya are sitting down directly with head coach Gautam Gambhir and T20 captain Shreyas Iyer. This is a pure, unadulterated damage assessment meeting to figure out exactly how this championship team got derailed so fast. Naturally, this leads to the biggest, most pressing question going into this meeting. According to the reports, the primary item on the agenda is whether Gautam Gambhir will even be allowed to retain his position as the T20 coach. I mean, while his contract supposedly runs until 2027, this sudden, spectacular collapse has brought his immediate future into very serious jeopardy. Now, what's really fascinating about these reports is this specific threshold they mention, 5 to 8. Sources indicate that during this review, player feedback is going to be absolutely crucial. If even 5 to 8 players out of that 15 to 18-man squad express discomfort with Gambhir's leadership style, his dismissal as T20 coach is considered virtually guaranteed. It really just shows you exactly how fragile his mandate might be right now. In fact, critics and observers are so utterly convinced that a change is needed, they're already floating alternative names in case the BCCI decides to just clean house. The two names consistently brought up in the reports are VVS Lakshman and former coach Ravi Shastri. The sources specifically highlight Shastri, noting that during his previous tenure, the team enjoyed significantly better man management, and these kinds of toxic internal leaks and clashes, they simply did not happen. So as we wrap up this explainer, the reports leave us with a pretty chilling long-term perspective. You see, this isn't just about losing a few bilateral series. There are massive global stakes here. With their #1 ranking rapidly slipping away due to these losses, the final question is this: will these short-sighted selection blunders and management ego battles permanently cost Team India their direct qualification ticket to the upcoming Olympics? It forces us to look right back at our main question for today. Team India ki asafalata ki ho chain ki galtiyan zimmedar. Because getting it right is honestly more critical now than